Hello, my name is Father Gregory Pine, and I am a Dominican friar of the province of St. Joseph, and I am what am I? I'm a doctoral candidate in dogmatic theology at the University of Freiburg in Switzerland, and this is Pines with Aquinas. In this particular episode, we're going to talk about a favorite theme of mine, I hope a favorite theme of yours. We're going to talk about fraternal correction. Why is it a favorite theme? Well, because when done well, it can be very, very good for your conversion and the conversion of those whom you love. So, let's get into it. All right, here we go. Fraternal correction. When we're talking about fraternal correction, we're talking about an act of love. All right, we're talking about an act of charity. So just from the outset, we want to distinguish what pertains to justice and what pertains to charity. So let's say that you are a parent of children. Obviously, when you correct your children, you want to correct them lovingly. But strictly speaking, the corrections that you give them are motivated by a kind of justice, right? So you are their parents. You have given them life, and as a result of which, they owe you filial piety. They owe you respect. They owe you obedience. And when they disobey you, you can just say, hey, you didn't disobey me. This upsets me because your character is being undermined. So now I am going to punish you. So, there are better and worse ways of correcting another human being in justice. But when we talk about fraternal correction, we're talking specifically about correcting somebody who is on equal footing with you, whether in the family or in the church or in the civil polity or whatever, like in friendship. We're just talking about how you love somebody into changing, and you don't necessarily have a relationship of justice where you can just be like, hey, I'm your boss, or hey, I'm your parent, or hey, whatever, I'm going to correct you, party on. Okay, so we're talking about charity, we're talking about love. And whenever you're talking about love, you're talking about the combination of two desires. When you correct somebody, you want to make sure that these two desires are present, namely, the desire for the good of the beloved and the desire for union with the beloved. So what you want is this person's good, which is to say you want this person to know, love, and to serve God better in this life and to enjoy God better in the next. And you recognize the fact that because you are their friend, you are in a certain sense responsible for that. Primarily responsible for that? No. But you recognized, with this kind of spirit of vocation, that God has brought you into each other's lives so that you can love each other unto eternity. Because that's the point of friendship. Point of friendship is that in willing the other's good and in willing your communion with the other, that you proceed hand in hand, side by side, towards a common goal. And in the highest of friendships, that common goal is just life eternal. So, all right, when you proffer this correction or when you formulate this correction, you're trying to do it for the sake of love. Namely, you want to promote that person's good, you want to build a deeper communion with that person so that together you can proceed towards your common end. Now, it's difficult to perform fraternal correction because it requires a little bit of courage. Why? Well, because it means expressing your love in a particularly concrete and sometimes challenging way. It's easy for us to kind of experience love for another human being or even to wish love for another human being. But love has a kind of incarnate logic to it. Love needs to be worked out. So when a man and a woman love each other and then they get married, their love takes very concrete shape in the form of children, all right? But in the context of a friendship, there's also a sense in which we should be able to observe love's effects. Because if I say, I love my brother, and then nothing visibly changes in reality as a result of that love, then what's going on there? Is it in fact a real love? Is it in fact a real friendship? Like if we just encourage each other to be lazy, unmotivated, uninspired, and uninteresting, what is that love? That's not love, okay? So Pseudo Dionysius says that love is a vis unitiva. It unites us to each other and to our goals. And so it ought to be a kind of motor, right? It ought to be a kind of engine whereby we progress from where we are presently to where we hope in the end to be by God's grace. So we can't just satisfy ourselves with benevolence, all right? So willing the good. We need to move beyond benevolence, or we need it such that our benevolence is made visible, is made concrete, is made manifest, is made incarnate in beneficence, okay? So the doing of good to the other. And you can think too, of the first letter of St. John, where he describes this kind of logic where, if I say I love my brother, but I don't do the good, then I'm a liar, okay? I'm just a liar. So we don't want to be liars, all right? We want to be tellers of the truth, and we want to be testifiers to the truth in the context of these relationships so that others can come to know that truth and abide in that truth. All right. Now, when I was a novice, so when I first joined the order of preachers, my novice master, who was a very good man and who was very wise in these matters, Father James Sullivan, he gave us criteria for how we formulate and then how we offer fraternal correction. He says, ask yourself 3 questions. 1, does this matter? 2, can this person change? And 3, do I love him? So let's just walk through them. Does this matter? When you're thinking about and maybe working towards correcting somebody, it's good to identify a thing that actually matters, okay? Now, does this mean that we will only ever correct people when they commit a mortal sin in a manifest or public way in excess of 15 times? No, it's not like we have creepy criteria for determining what matters, right? Because it might be worthwhile to correct someone for something that isn't necessarily sinful, but makes common life really difficult. Or it might actually be in the best interest of the body politic, right? Not to correct somebody. Not to correct somebody. Oh my gosh, I'm having so much difficulty saying the word someone and something. Okay. All right, let's return. First thought. Does this matter? The question is, does this matter? So it might not be sinful, or it might be sinful. So maybe somebody clears his throat all the time, has terrible postnasal drip. It's annoying for you, but you get the impression that no one else notices. So St. Therese had this problem with one of her sisters who made all kinds of noises in chapel. She just dealt with it, all right? She just tried to love that sister all the more rather than focusing on the fact that she was incredibly frustrated, all right? But maybe you acknowledge that there's something here that is amiss, it needs to be addressed, and that you're the one to do it, okay? So when you pose to yourself the question, does this matter? The answer might be, I think so, right? Because it poses a real obstacle to this person's advancement in the truth and in the good, and ultimately to the sanctity to which they're called. Okay. Next, can this person change? We have to realize that change is a kind of progressive phenomenon. So I don't go from being a lout on Monday to being a saint on Tuesday. God gives us a whole lifetime, okay? And the way that he trains us up in righteousness is pedagogical. So he takes us by the hand and he leads us into the fullness, step by step, right? So he's very patient in the way in which he teaches the faith through revelation. He's very patient in which he mediates grace through the sacraments. He's very patient in the whole course of salvation history, calling us each, drawing us each in a way that's individual, in a way that's personal, in a way that's tender, but in a way that's strong. And so the way in which we love one another should reflect God's pedagogy. It should reflect his patience, his tenderness, his mercy in, all of its refinement and subtlety. Now, should we take that as a reason never to correct anyone for anything? No. But you want to have the sensibility that now is a time when this person can confront this obstacle. Now is a time when this person is well disposed to hear this correction, or is well disposed to be challenged to confront this obstacle. And I think that if I were to give it voice, there's a decent chance that this could go well, okay? If you know that it's only going to go poorly or catastrophically and that you're sharing it just because you want to get it off your chest, right? And you need to say something you're going to explode. That's not sufficient, okay? Because fraternal correction isn't just about you. It isn't just about you feeling psychologically better adjusted to your struggles in life. It's about love, right? So it's about the good of the beloved and union with the beloved. Which leads us to our third point, our third question. Do I actually love this human being? All right? So here's the deal. We're never going to have perfectly pure intentions or unmixed motivations at any point in our life. We're always going to be acting out of a variety of inclinations, all of which are fallen, all of which are in the process of being healed by the life of virtue. But we can't expect of ourselves that we'll be 1,000% generous, unselfish, charitable, whatever, in the context of the correction that we proffer. There's just going to be some ego mixed in. Okay, fine. But the question here is, am I principally motivated by love? And can I bring that to the foreground in a way that's not condescending, okay? So can I make manifest to the other person that I am drawn to this particular encounter by a genuine love. Because when you confront somebody else, they're going to be able to tell immediately if you're doing it just because you're like, yeah, I got things to say, and you're the person that I got things to say. All right, so that's not that's not helpful. Or if you're like, yeah, I'm supposed to be charitable, and you're the person that I'm going to be charitable to. It's like, okay, so nobody wants to be a charity case, but everyone wants to be loved. And if you're able to communicate to the other person that you love them, and that this is one way in which you love them, then I think the chances of you succeeding are infinitely, infinitely higher. So that helps, to kind of carry the thing off, especially if you can do it with a spirit of generosity, with a spirit of whimsy, with a spirit of charm even, because I think all of that will commend the love which you seek to share. Okay, so in review, fraternal correction is motivated by love. Love represents the coming together of two desires, the desire for the good of the beloved and the desire for union with the beloved. So it's not sufficient that we just will their good. We, in fact, have to, promote their good or do their good. So we need to move from benevolence to beneficence. Fraternal correction is just one way in which we can do that. But in order to proceed with it, we should ask ourselves first 3 questions. First, does this matter? 2, can this change? And 3, do I love? When we kind of render a response for each of these 3 questions, we'll probably find that we come up with mixed results, or we come up with, a kind of mixed bag. That's okay, all right? We should be well disposed to act on this word, lest we remain silent for all of our days. And then the last thing that I would say, just kind of as a coda, is this. Don't underestimate the power of your witness to itself furnish a kind of correction. So in my own Dominican life, I have received many corrections for many things, and I have profited from them. But for me, the greatest or the most excellent of rebukes is often the way in which the brothers live their lives well and live their lives beautifully. Because that for me becomes a source of inspiration. It becomes for me a source wherein I identify my own life as somehow lacking or my own life as somehow deficient. I can see in their testimony and in their witness a kind of visible grace whereby God is calling me to be more like them, to imitate them as they imitate the Lord. So I think that it doesn't always have to be the type of thing where you're like, hey, can I talk to you about something in a very serious way? It can simply also emerge organically from your living of the gospel, from your testimony to the truth. So have confidence in that as well. Okay, I think those are all the things that I want to say about fraternal correction. This is Pints with Aquinas, as I mentioned at the top. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe, push the button, and the bell. You'll get emails. Things are great. And then do check out Godsplaining, Godsplaining. You can find it on any podcast app or on YouTube. That's a podcast to which I contribute with 4 other Dominican friars, where we have casual conversations on all things Catholic, trying to bring a kind of contemplative gaze to our 21st century lives. And all the problems therein. So, hope to see you in either of those 2 media. And until next time, God bless you. And my prayers are for you. Please pray for me. Cheers.